Hello everybody, it's the Game Judge here. I feel like Bethesda is on its last leg at the moment. I want to walk you through a timeline and give you reasons as to why I believe that's the case. I'll start with Morrowind. Now up to this point, Bethesda had been releasing a lot of games, and Morrowind came out and I think it was 2002. It did pretty well. Then you had Oblivion, which came out, I believe it was in 2006, and that did pretty well. Then you had Skyrim, right? Skyrim really put Bethesda on the map, and that was released back in 2011. And from this point on, it really felt like Bethesda has really went downhill, because these games prior didn't really divide the community as much. You had some people that didn't like that Skyrim removed some of the RPG mechanics and it kind of simplified the gameplay, but in general, most people I feel like loved all three. After Skyrim, they released Elder Scrolls Online, and now granted, this was not developed by Bethesda Game Studios, it was developed by ZeniMax. However, this game came out to be painfully average, which was kind of surprising to people. I remember being excited for the Elder Scrolls Online. I was thinking the lore's there, it's awesome, I can play the Elder Scrolls with my friends. The game was just kind of boring and dry. It felt like everyone kind of still gave them a pass because they had such a good reputation with their games prior to that. Oh, and I forgot to mention Fallout 3 as well. They released Fallout 3 sometime in the 2000s. That was well received. And then we just kind of said, okay, moving on to the next one. And then they made, Fallout 76. Now this game, this was bad. They had no NPCs in the game. It was just not a good game. So now we had Elder Scrolls Online, we had Fallout 76, and then they did make Fallout 4, and Fallout 4 wasn't bad. It just felt very stagnant, like they hadn't really changed much. I mean, they did add the settlements in there, which was cool, but I just feel like they didn't really push the envelope forward. Like they were still kind of stuck, not really growing or progressing. Then up to this point, we had already been waiting for the next Elder Scrolls game, and they just kept re-releasing Skyrim over and over. They were working on mobile games, also expanding their studios, and Todd just told us that they don't want to be known as a studio that's releasing Fallout, Elder Scrolls, which I find funny because they're still releasing content or video games, I guess, under those umbrellas. Like Elder Scrolls Online, even though developed by ZeniMax, is still Elder Scrolls, and then Fallout Shelter, which was a mobile game, is still Fallout, and then Elder Scrolls Blades is still an Elder Scrolls game. It just sounds like they got greedy after Skyrim. Like they got into that mainstream success, right? Skyrim was the game that kind of pushed them into the mainstream. It's kind of like Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones. It's fantasy worlds is full of magic and swords. And how many people do you know that like those movies that typically don't like that stuff? But those movies also appealed to people that are typically into those things, but they're typically more niche. But somehow Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones kind of tapped into the other side while also appealing to the other side. And that usually means mainstream success. And that's what Skyrim did for Bethesda. And I think from that point on, they just got greedy. I think it's just the oldest story, right? Greed and ambition. And then they released Starfield, which really divided the community. Now, we can agree to disagree, I guess, in the sense that Starfield is a good or bad game. So you can like it, I can hate it, I do hate it. But you have to admit that compared to Oblivion and Skyrim or anything they really made in the past, maybe Fallout 76, it divided the community big time, especially as a single player, story-driven game. And up to that point, we only had Fallout 4, and then we had re-releases of Skyrim, and Starfield just really split the community. So they're expanding, they're working on mobile games, multiplayer games, they're not giving us an Elder Scrolls game, and then we get Starfield. Things do not look good. Now, they were just bought by Microsoft. I don't know how much that's going to change. I imagine some things are going to change, but I have to say, I don't have any faith in Bethesda. I don't think they can pull this off. I think good things have to come to an end, and I think that Bethesda is coming to its end, and it's probably better just to accept it. Part of me is still holding out for hope because I love the Elder Scrolls lore and the series, and I look back at Oblivion or Morrowind and Skyrim, and I love them, enjoyed them all, but the reality is I think it's coming to an end, guys. And the biggest thing now, I think, is what's going to happen with the Elder Scrolls IP. A lot of people have mentioned maybe Obsidian taking over. I'm not really sure. I like Obsidian. I'm more excited for Obsidian, honestly, than I am for Bethesda. Let me know in the comments below. What do you guys think? Do you guys think that Bethesda can pull it off? Do you think they can redeem themselves with the Elder Scrolls 6 and bring the community back together and shows that they're still this great studio? Or do you think that it's over? Do you think that this is the end and Bethesda can no longer make a good video game that we all love? Thank you all so much for watching. Hope to see you all on the next one.